I now have Emma, however. I'm getting my names confused because Emma is also going to be talking about Donald Trump, the president-elect, but this has nothing to do with his plans for the White House, does it?
No, absolutely not. The blurring of the lines between politics and reality TV continues to happen with the election of Donald Trump, because what we've learnt now is that he's going to retain his role as executive producer of Celebrity Apprentice. This was an exclusive from Variety magazine, which I think perhaps might be one of the places we get some of our most important updates regarding this president from now on.
If not Twitter.
Exactly, yes, when he's not tweeting it out himself. Now, what they don't say is how much he will earn from this particular job, but they don't seem to think that's too important. Many people, though, really don't care what the amount is. What they're concerned about is the possible conflict of interests. But Variety say they're suggesting that the critics really shouldn't be too concerned because it's been done before. They say sitting presidents have written books and earned royalties, and they really don't see a difference between those two things. It is something that is causing a great deal of concern there, a real range of reactions and a lot of disbelief. Trump to remain executive producer of Celebrity Apprentice, ensuring he'll have something to do while Mike Pence is running the country. Some people able to maintain a sense of humour about this rather strange scenario. Remember when people got mad that Obama went golfing, says this Twitter user. Trump has made it clear he doesn't have time for intelligence briefings, but has plenty of time to look at rough cuts of The Apprentice, because, of course, we understand that he only has one intelligence briefing a week, and the norm would be every day. And one final tweet on this one. The emphasis on Trump's apprentice conflicts lets NBC off the hook. You can't be in business with a president that you are covering. This is nuts. And that is something that a lot of people are talking about, the fact that actually it's NBC who could have the greater conflict of interest here.
And that's what you're saying. It does expose an awful lot of hypocrisy, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And not just when it comes to this aspect of conflict of interests, because if a week is a long time in politics, then a year and a half in show business must be a lifetime. Because if you remember, June 2015, Donald Trump courted huge controversy by talking about Mexicans, saying that they're all rapists and criminals, adding a slightly unconvincing rider that some of them are good people, I'm sure. That caused NBC Universal to cut all ties with him. What they said in their statement was that respect and dignity for all people are cornerstones of our values. So what that meant was an end to them showing Miss USA and Miss Universe, both beauty pageants that Trump is nominally in charge of. Now, Donald Trump had already pulled out of presenting The Apprentice, the original show, because he was concentrating on his presidential campaign. And what NBC, I'm sure, are going to be very quick to point out is the fact that Celebrity Apprentice actually isn't part of the same deal. It's actually owned by a different company. So I'm sure they will want to draw that distinction, but a lot of people on Twitter really not convinced at all, as you might imagine. But it is not just NBC that is changing its position on Donald Trump. Arnold Schwarzenegger, too, will replace Donald Trump as the host on Celebrity Apprentice. This is the same man. You may remember this headline. Trump just lost the Arnold Schwarzenegger vote. And that is because he is a former Republican governor who said he'd always voted Republican since becoming a US citizen in 1983. He tweeted everyone, urged them not to vote for Donald Trump, saying, as proud as I am to label myself a Republican, there is one label that I hold above all else: American. He said it's not only acceptable to choose your country over your party, it is your duty. Now, those were his words in the run-up to the election. Very unequivocal stuff. But for some reason, he is now working alongside Donald Trump. You might think maybe he didn't know that was going to happen, but he is also an executive producer, so the likelihood of him being unaware is pretty small. The interesting thing is, though, that Donald Trump has said, "We chose Arnold." So it is very much his choice that this man who had issued this very, very condemnatory comment about him is now in his hot seat. But it is a win-win scenario for Donald Trump, because as executive producer, if it goes brilliantly, he can say it's all down to me. But if it tanks and nobody watches this program, he can say it's all the fault of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was so much better at it. And that is what I'm sure will be the case. But for him, he really can't lose. Now, one thing a lot of people are joking about on Twitter is what might happen to the famous catchphrase. Because, of course, in The Apprentice and Celebrity Apprentice, when people are kicked out, they are told, "You're fired." Really hoping Schwarzenegger will say, "You're terminated," instead of "You're fired." Lots of people saying that one. And really hope you give a hasta la vista baby to contestants when they're eliminated on The Apprentice. My vote, though, would go for "You won't be back."
Thank you so much. That's Emma James with MediaWatch, and that's it for now. I'll be back with more news and headlines. Do stay with us after a short.